Welcome to Loup TV. I'm your host, Gene Munster. I am joined by someone who I've been a longtime fan of, Horace Dediu from Asympco. He needs no introduction, has been following Apple longer than I have, and it is a pleasure to have you. Welcome, Horace. Our A topic today is related to the recent changes to Apple's App Store commissions for smaller developers. They've lowered that take rate from 30% to 15%. This is for developers that gross less than 1 million on Apple's App Store per year. And Horace, when you saw the news, what did you think?
You know, this is a delicate subject. Obviously, I know a lot of people who are developers, so I feel, I myself built apps in the past. So
I
it's
didn't know that, by the way. News to
yeah,
me.
we built a presentation app called Perspective that gives you an iPad, allows you to do presentations, so using wonderful animations. It's still on the App Store, and it's been a great story for us. But this has been a challenge because developers are Apple's most avid fans, if you will. They've always relied on developers to sort of take the message to the customer, ultimately through their work, and to have them effectively become detractors sometimes and sort of complaining a lot, and it's not been good for Apple, I think, in its heart. And this is why
And the complaining, by the way, is just over that commission. They feel it's punitive.
yeah, that it's somehow it's too much. It's extortion or whatever. A lot of language used there. Obviously, I'm old enough to remember when you used to pay the channel distribution costs of 40, 50, 60% if you were in software. That was not unheard of back in the day when we had package software. But
Right.
digital distribution is cheaper, but it's arguably being charged at a rate higher than what it costs to deliver. So there's a high margin for the distributor in this case. And Apple got the whole thing started, so it deserves something for having established this mode of software development and distribution. So there's a lot of positives and negatives. I'm sort of in the middle between two worlds. I don't want to read too much into this as a tactical maneuver by Apple to sort of counter some lawsuit or another. I think fundamentally they ask themselves, do we want to be seen positively by most of people, who are in the community, and what's the right thing to do? So I would take it at face value that say, well, we think it's worth doing a different cost structure based on effectively your size.
So yeah, face value, the announcement was Apple wanted to do good by the small developer and make it more accommodable for them. And so your view is that straightforward. When I saw it, my reaction was that there was a master chess game going on here, that ultimately Apple wanted to do the right thing for the small developer, but this move could create some blood in the water for companies like Epic to be more aggressive at going after Apple, simply going to the regulators and saying, look, they've lowered their commissions with the smaller ones. That is a subtle admission that they feel that the take rate is too high, and therefore the larger app developers will deserve that same lower take rate. But you don't feel that same way, Horace.
I don't think that they're so tactical, especially since you consider that a move like this would probably have, consequences for decades to come. I think the original move to open the App Store the way they did, basing a pricing on what effectively was the iTunes cut, which was 30% as well, as you recall. And that was started in 2004, by the way. And so, we're looking
And
at
they
a
have made
decade.
changes to that before too. So
They
this is
have tweaked it a little bit, yeah. So, you also have different rates for whether you have a subscription for a period of time and so on. So, they're thinking about it much more, I think, as a strategic question. How is their brand perceived? How do they want to also nurture talent? And the understanding, the great book on this is actually Creativity Inc., which is about Pixar. But it showed a lot of how Jobs thought at the time about managing creative people. And turns out managing creative people is very difficult. It's like they call it herding cats. It's like really, they're very hard to sort of coordinate. And so the tools you have are very crude. So in this case, using pricing on app distribution. It's a tough challenge, and I don't envy them at all. But I think that they're trying to do the right thing, and I gotta just assume that they're just being honest about it.
straightforward. I do think they are honest about helping those small developers. And to finish the thought is, from my perspective, even though I think that there's this master game going on, master strategy going on between Apple and the regulators and some of these other big companies. Ultimately, I think Apple would not have made that move, would not have made that adjustment downward if they thought that that compromised their position against the larger app developers. In the end, Apple can set the rules that they want on their app store, Google can on their app store. And I think it is a slippery slope for regulators if they start to meddle in this commissions. I have gone fully way off the direction that I'm not an antitrust lawyer, and that is just my pure speculation is that Apple will be able to maintain this 30% take rate with the larger developers. The best part about these predictions is we'll see how it plays out in the next couple of years. Horace, love your input on this, and thank you for joining us. On behalf of Horace and Gene Munster and Loop TV, bye for now.